Hi and welcome. This is Feed Your Soul, and I am Melinda, and you're watching our series on helpful Hebrew. These videos are designed to pair up with our Torah portions to help followers of Jesus understand the words behind the word um, of the scriptures that we love, that our whole faith is built on, and to just have some more context and clarity about the words that we're reading. So this week we are focused on the Torah portion from last week, which was Chayai Sarah, and that is life of Sarah, or Sarah's life. And it is the portion that is found in Genesis 23 through 25:18. And really, our first word in this week's episode is Chayai Sarah. So it's the phrase about Sarah's life. And it's just interesting that this phrase shows up twice in the verse, right? So the Torah portion titles come from the first significant words in the portion. So right there in Genesis 23, verse 1, it says, Sarah lived 100 years and 27 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So you could really say this phrase either way: Sarah lived, or life of Sarah, Chayai Sarah. And if you read some midrash, and rabbis have all kinds of interesting things to say about why it was written like this, the way the years of her life were written out. There's some thoughts about why it was divided up like this. But another interesting thing is the portion starts and it's called Sarah's life, or life of Sarah, but it really starts with her death and her burial. So the life of Sarah continues through her children and her children's children. And this is really pointing to that she has a legacy. And her legacy is her as the mother of nations, right? So just looking again, so you can see it in the Hebrew, we have Chayai Sarah, and then again, Chayai Sarah. It's just interesting that it comes up twice, and it is kind of uniquely a uniquely structured sentence in Hebrew. So pulling from that verse, the same verse, Genesis 23:1, the root word behind Chayai is chai. So it has that guttural sound, right? We don't have a letter that matches in English. Uh, Several languages have that. German's kind of famous for that sound, but it's chai, and it is the word for life. It's a beautiful word that just means, it means being alive, abundance, um, anywhere from living humans, living animals, living plants, to being alive with activity. And it's a verse that comes up way early in Genesis 1, where I believe it's talks about the life that is created in the seas. And the last time the word chai is used in the Hebrew scriptures is in Malachi. So it's all the way through the whole Bible. It's a common word. And you may have heard this word. It's the toast that comes at the end of Passover, chaim lachaim, to life. And it's just a toast to next year in Jerusalem, lachaim. But it's a plural form of the word chai. And so it's really to many lives, to all the lives, to all of our lives. And it's a very communal word, a beautiful word that you'll really see all through scripture. Next, we are looking at the word for word, or speak, or thing, and it's dabar. And it is more of a formal word, a formal speech, directions, something given with authority. And we're looking here at Genesis 23:3. Then Abraham stood up from his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying. So spoke, saying, and there are actually two different words, and we don't tend to see it or see the difference in English, but spoke is more like a declaration of what you're going to say, and these words are important. And then you'll see our next word. There's just a more casual word that talks about talking or speaking or saying. And so when you hear the word debar in the Bible, it's really, or davar, it's really a weighty thing. And so even the Ten Commandments are actually called the 10 words, and it's the 10 davar. Um, so sometimes you see, depending on the inflection or the conjugation of the word, this we have a dalet, a bet or vet, and a resh. And this bet or vet, it changes whether it's a v or a b sound, depending on if it has the dot there in the middle. Um, and so de, debar, it's actually a b sound, debar. So it should have the belly button there, but it must not have had it on Strong's. So, okay, this is spoke, speak, word thing. It really is literally to arrange, meaning to kind of arrange the letters and words in order to say what you want to say. So it's a very ordered thing. And then the other part, the other word for saying or said in this verse is amar. So it's the other word that you'll see in the Bible for speech or speaking or saying, and it is more casual. And so there is a difference in the two words that mean to speak in the Bible. Again, debar is like a heavier, weightier matter, and amar is just he was saying in the conversation. Next, we have here in Genesis 24:1 the word blessed. And it is a super common word in the Bible. You'll see the word blessed all the way back in Genesis 1, all through the Old Testament. But we just pulled it out here. Now, Abraham was old, well advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. So the word is barak in Hebrew, and here we'll see that bet that we were talking about that has, it's either the b or the v sound, depending on the dot. If it has the belly button, it's a b sound. So barak. And it literally means to kneel down, an act of adoration. And I went to see how many times this word was used to actually kneel in the Bible, and it's not often. It's just two or three times, and one of them is when camels are kneeling. It's literally the word for kneel, and in that, it's like this position of adoration and honor, and it is used for either God blessing Israel or Israel turning around and blessing God, or mutual blessing amongst people to one another. So blessed meaning literally to kneel down in an act of adoration. Okay, here we have the word for heavens or heaven, but it is a plural word in Hebrew. It is shemaim. We talked before about the im being on the end of a word, denoting plurality. And it is the word used for heaven or heavens, sky. It's from an unused root word meaning to be lofty, literally the sky. So there's a lot of conjecture as to why this is a plural word and what it's actually referring to, but it applies from everything from the sky that we can see to the heavens above it, and the firmament, what makes up the firmament and beyond. So in Genesis 24:3, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my sons from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. We certainly have seen this word come up in the Bible before now, but just since it was paired here with heavens and earth, I thought it would be a good time to touch on it. And Shemaim, here we start with the shen that we have talked about before. The dot on the top can help it make either a sh or a s sound. So in Sarah, Sarah's name, the dot was on the other side, and in Shemaim, it's on this side, denoting the sh sound, right? And it really is just this kind of prefix on the word for water. Shemaim, maim is the word for water, and we did that back when we talked about Noah and the flood. So earth, land, that is our next word here, eretz. And we mentioned it before, the first letter in the word eretz is actually silent. It's the aleph, and it doesn't make a noise by itself. So the vowel pairing with the letter is what makes the noise. So this is eretz. And it means, it's from an unused root word, probably meaning to be firm. So the firm part of our land. And it can mean the earth as a whole or just land specifically. And same verse as before, I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. So, eretz. So, I think it's nice to have some biblical pronunciation, some Hebraic pronunciation of names of people, because when we give someone a name, it's really in our own language, right? Sometimes when we translate names into our own language, we can lose uh, the the mother tongue, let's say, like what the mother even would have called the child as she or he was sitting on her knee, right? I feel like that makes it a little less personal. And before we've gone over a few names, we've gone over Yeshua, which is the name for Jesus, before it comes to us transliterated from Hebrew to Greek to Latin to English. Yeshua would have been much closer to what Jesus's mother called him. And we've gone over other names. Avram or Avraham is Abraham. Uh, Noah is Noach. And Lot is Lot. That wasn't a big stretch, right? But here we have Rebecca, whose name was originally Rivka. And it means to ensnare or bind or tie, probably meaning with the connotation of being able to snare a man or catch a man with her beauty. And the word does say that Rebecca was beautiful. And here we have in Genesis 24:64, then Rebecca lifted her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from her camel. So Rebecca is Rivka, and her name starts with this resh, the sound. And we have the vet here and not the bet. So Rivka. Okay. Isaac is our next Hebrew word. Again, his name doesn't sound like Isaac. Once it gets from the Hebrew all the way to the English, we lose the y sound. So anything that you see that begins with an I in English likely is a y sound in the Hebrew. So this is Yitzhak, Yitzhak. And where we get that TS sound, which is kind of unfamiliar to English, um, it's here, right? So we have Yitzhak, and we don't have a letter that makes that sound in English. So over time, Yitzhak became Isaac, but either way, his name means laughter. And it comes from the meaning of his name comes from God is the one who actually named him because of the laughter of both Avraham and his mother, Sarah. And they laughed when they were told that they would have a child in their old age. So the next word I wanted to touch on was heart. And the word for heart in Hebrew is lev. And it's an interesting word in the Hebrew because it's in ancient languages didn't necessarily have the same connotation for words as we do. When we want to talk about our thoughts, we generally talk about our head. If we want to talk about our feelings, we would say something like about our heart. But for ancient people, these things kind of all intermix. There wasn't really any separation of the mind, the will, the heart. So this is actually what the word lave means in Hebrew. It means your inner person, your thoughts, your feelings, your mind, your will, and your moral character. It's really all one. It's like what makes you you. What makes your soul the part of you that is unseen. So it's the whole thing. It's all of your innermost being. So Genesis 24:45. But before I had finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebecca coming out with her pitcher on her shoulder. So that phrase comes up a lot in the Bible, speaking in my heart, just really thoughts, thinking through this. Um, the innermost person, your internal dialogue, who you are on the inside. Lave. And kind of related, we have to love as our next helpful Hebrew word, and it's ahav. And this is the verb form of the word love. You may have heard this before. It's ahava, is love. The noun, it depends on how it's used in the sentence, exactly what the conjugation of the word is. But here, as verb form, it's ahav. And it means to desire, have affection for. It literally means to breathe after, maybe even pant after. And you can kind of hear it. It's ahav. Sounds like breath almost. And for this week, we took it out of verse 24:67 in Genesis. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So love, ahav. Again, this is that aleph, it's silent. And we also have the vet here. So we're at least getting to know the first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet pretty well. The aleph, silent, only gets the vowel sound, and bet or vet, depending on if it has our dot or not. No dot, it's a v sound. So ahav. So that's it. It was kind of a short, helpful Hebrew this week. Here is just a chart of the Hebrew alphabet. If you haven't seen one in a while, they're all over the internet. You can Google. There's a lot more in-depth videos out there and tutorials to help you sound out the words, to help you learn the sounds to every letter, to help you understand the vowels, which the vowels are down here. The vowel markings got added in later on. Ancient Hebrew didn't have vowel markings, and then over time they were added to just help people be able to read it and pronounce it. So a lot of these words and these lessons come from vocabulary words that I did with my kids. We homeschooled and did Hebrew as our root word language of choice throughout many, many grades when they were young and even in high school. So it comes from just this love of the language, love of learning, love of knowing our word better than we do. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you in the next video. Currently working on this current week's Torah portion, which is Toldot, or generations. And we're also working on a video for the priesthood. What is the priesthood and when did it start? I was toying around calling it Abraham priest or prophet, but it's probably going to be bigger than Abraham. So look for a video on the priesthood, the eternal priesthood. It's been a big interest of mine lately. What is this priesthood? Who is Melchizedek? How is that connected to Yeshua and Abraham and Noah and Seth? And we could go on. All right, enough teasers. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for joining me.